Welcome to the Mind of Psychic, where we talk music, addiction, comedy, culture. If you like this content, please leave feedback and subscribe. Let's get into it. Hello, everyone. On today's episode, I want to talk about destructive behaviors. Recognizing patterns not conducive with one's sobriety. You get to a point in life, especially when you get sober, you contemplate everything. And as I mentioned last episode, I spoke about flashbacks, that sort of thing. This episode, I want to, like I said in the beginning, talk about destructive behaviors and what causes them. The root cause, is it psychosomatic? Is it environmental? Is it friendships? Is it family? Are you born with it? Is it nature versus nurture? What is it? So we're going to talk about it a little bit and see how we can go about reversing those destructive behaviors by thinking, understanding, and putting a plan together. But why am I doing this? Because the destructive behaviors that I've had in the past are the reason why I'm here talking to you guys right now. So I figured, why not? And recognizing patterns, that's a big one. But recognizing patterns when you become sober, because you really can't understand the patterns that you put out until you understand what it caused. Like, people see your patterns, but you don't necessarily see them at that point because you're so into denial. You don't need help. And that's just part of being an addict. And it's kind of a double-edged sword, because deep down, people, I believe, want to be good and want to do good things, but their addiction doesn't allow them to do it. And what I mean by that is they have 100% control, the person. They just choose to use their addiction as a way of coping, a way of being in their own way. Some of my most destructive behaviors begin years and years ago. It's like where I laid the foundation and all the bad habits of the birth of my addiction and starting to self-destruct. Now, why do I bring this up? Because I have to tell a story to give it some beef, to give it some backing. The biggest one for me, well, they're all large, but the one that rings out to me the most is one of the biggest destructive behaviors was being irresponsible. That right there was like a snowball effect. It didn't matter once I got to a certain point, it just started, I just kept on acting that way. But why was I being so destructive to myself? Why did I act in that manner? And at the time, I didn't know. At the time, I didn't care. I didn't see it for what it was. It's one of those things where everyone else can see them. I mean, the more I started drinking, the more I stopped caring about things. Stopped doing half-assing stuff, including work, not putting any of my energies into the hobbies I like, and just going on a downward spiral constantly. Attendance, and that means attendance not only in my, my job, my school, commitments, and so forth. That, of course, I put on the back burner. These behaviors you don't want to admit, especially early stages, because number one, you really don't totally get it because you're not thinking about it. You want to feel a certain way and you don't care what else. You don't care if it affects anyone. You don't care. You just want to get that feeling. You want to get that endorphin. You want to get that high, whatever you call it. And it could also turn into another addiction. And what I mean by that is you keep on self destructing and you just rapidly do it again and again and again. And it just becomes a pattern. And to some point, you can't do anything. People give up on you for good, for bad. I personally think that I had to truly understand what was going on before I wanted to get help. Now, once I did get sober, I started recognizing certain patterns, and that does mess with the early stages of my sobriety. Now, what does that mean? That means every day that passes that I'm sober, I recognize my past behaviors and the patterns that went with that day by day. I don't necessarily understand why I drank. Well, let me be honest. It was because I hated myself. I didn't understand myself. I didn't want to get help because I believed I wasn't in any way, shape, or form messed up. It's a hard pill to swallow, but sobriety is where it's at. So I'll take you back. My destructive behaviors started way back before I was legally able to drink or, anything like that. I noticed very early on that I was going to be an alcoholic, meaning the first time I picked up a beer, it was something in my brain that just said, I can't let it go. Now, this is probably 18, 19, something like that. And not using my father as an excuse, but he was a raging alcoholic himself. I believe that it's genetic and the addictive part is genetic. And once I started drinking in deciding, okay, I'm going to do this on a regular basis because it makes me feel good. It takes me out of real life. It takes me into a whole new world, so to speak. It was a feeling of joy, a feeling of happiness, a feeling of, for that couple of hours a night, even though I had responsibilities, I didn't need to worry about them. And that's where the destructive personality, that's when the destructive behaviors came roaring out. You choose to buy alcohol, go partying, instead of going to bed at a decent time and going to school the next day. Hang out with people. Actually, no, I was too paranoid to hang out with people that drank because I was always worried like the cops are going to come break in and, arrest us. So I probably went to maybe 2 parties throughout my high school, and that were maybe 2 parties because I was just so scared and paranoid that, you know, we're underage and we're gonna get caught. So I really didn't partake in that. Most of the times on, like Friday nights and the weekend, people would come over to my house and we'd hang out for a couple hours. We maybe go out to dinner, chill. Then I'd go back home, watch a movie, do something like that. Because at that time I didn't like night. Night scared me. Don't know what that was about. I'm sure later on in a different episode I can go a little bit deeper and expand on that because I really haven't given it much thought. Like I said, my friends would come over, we'd hang out for a couple hours, they'd go do their own thing, and I'd go do my own thing. Then I started hanging out with he's my former best friend, and we hung out every single day. I mean, for 3 years straight, from '05 to almost '08, we hung out every day. We had a connection. Well, I thought we had a connection. I didn't see his true identity until years later. And I had people tell me, like, dude, like he he's different. Like he's different. I didn't I felt comfortable. So I would always hang out with him. He had his own house. So we were probably 20 at the time. No, 19. 19 at the time. We went to the same high school. We were the same age. We had somewhat of the same hobbies. Like we loved going to the beach. We loved driving around and cruising. We loved, going to the movies, going to concerts, stuff like that. So we just hung out every single day. After I got out of school, after I got out of class, I'd head on over there. And most of the time I would just stay at his house. So, I mean, I was basically almost living with the guy. I mean, I had a key to his house, all of that. So that's how close we got. So I didn't see the personal, I was too close to the situation to fully understand that he wasn't the cause of my actions. I was the cause of my actions, my drinking. Um, I felt comfortable to do those things and not feel paranoid. Now, I would drink triple what he would. I would drink until I damn near passed out. And that would be 5 days a week at that point. It was very, it was very comfortable to me. And with that, I exiled all my other friends. The friends now I look back on who were the true deal, who after 20 years, 20 plus years, you know, even though they have families and they have lives, they still accept me. And some of these same guys were the ones telling me way back then about this person. And it was heartbreaking. It was truly heartbreaking, but it had to happen that way. He himself went through addiction. I moved to Kentucky in December of 2007. And at that time, we were like, he did not want me to leave. I mean, like I said, we spent every single day together. I was really good friends with his wife. Like, it was the three amigos, basically. And we were just doing our own thing. Like, you would go hang out with his grandparents. We would be cool. And those were experiences I don't regret. And there'd be times, I'll be honest, that he would tell me, dude, you need to stop drinking. And we both have done stupid shit. But, I'm young. Like, dude, we'll be fine. No big deal. And 9 times out of 10, he was the driver, which on both of for us was not a good idea. And remember, back then there was no Uber. Yeah, there was there were taxis. Still no excuse to drive. Still no excuse for the ways we acted. When you get to a certain spot in a relationship, you almost become codependent, even as friends. If you spend so much time together in an unhealthy relationship, it will cause turmoil. The amount of turmoil and destructive behavior that I felt years later of understanding like what went on, like step by step by step, it was a major reason that I get it. I had to go through those negative experiences in order to become the person I am today. 2007, I moved to Kentucky. Our relationship, we still call each other probably at least 5 times a week. I mean, I would I would fly out to California once a year, maybe for a couple of years. And then we just grew farther and farther apart. I started meeting new people, having the same interests in life, but with different people, because you can't be 2,000 miles away and, you know, be on the phone drinking together. No, it doesn't work like that. I can see now you have FaceTime and you have, Skype and stuff. That may work, but then it wasn't one of those things that you wanted to do. But why? Why is it one of those things? So then, years later from then, probably 2017, he asked me for a favor, a monetary favor. And I told him, I mean, first of all, I couldn't have provided that monetary sum that time. So he, and like from there, we just, after that, we just stopped. I mean, I would see him, a couple of times throughout that. But other than that, no, I was done. I really didn't pay too much attention. I just felt like there are too many people that I felt were there just to use me for money. And this wasn't like my close. I had 2 or 3 people that they would use any excuse to try to get money. And I would give it to them. I would do anything I could. And these weren't like, other than this person who, I went back years, people would lie to me because, like I said, I didn't understand and I'm super gullible and I wanted to help everyone. I wanted to be liked. I wanted to be the person that everybody came to when they needed something, which now sounds like I'm a psycho. That I felt I needed to be that loved in my own mind, even though I would get nothing back but a fallacy of what it really was people just needed money and using me. I'm not forgetting. Forgiveness is for me very difficult. And I'm not at that point, even all these years later, about about forgiving. And it's more like it's been all these years with no contact. I have no personal interest anymore to try to rekindle that relationship. I think that was in my earlier time. We both went through hell and back on different addictions, on losing family members, etc., etc. I have no interest in being this connecting with this person again and having that relationship. And he could have did a 180 and changed, and I hope he did, and I hope he has a great life and he's doing well. There was not too long ago that he reached out, and I waited and I waited. I waited a day, then I waited a week, and I kept on looking at the messages, and I'm like, I'm not going to respond because it's just going to open up something. I'm in, at this point, I'm what, 4 years into sobriety. I'm working, I have a good job. I'm happy the way I know how to be happy. And I don't see a plus side to open up a relationship that died down 10 years prior, 8 years prior, sorry, 8 years prior. I don't hate them. Not, I don't hate them one bit. I just think I'm in a whole nother lane and I need to move forward. Nothing against him. I'm an adult. He never pressured me to do anything that I wasn't willing to do. We had fun. We did a lot of stuff together. More good than bad. At least that was my recollection. I could be totally wrong. And I wish him the best. I just don't see the point anymore of being in a reconnecting because it won't ever feel like it did before. Because we left when you don't speak to someone for that long and you grow as a person, you meet new people, you start to love yourself again. All of that stuff goes on the wayside. All those years passed, you still think about it, but you don't necessarily want to rekindle those hard relationships. Even though at the time you think, okay, that was fun. We went to go party. We did this, we did that. Not now. Not now. It's not one that I want to rekindle. And I never thought that I could be that honest because I never want to hurt anybody. I just feel that it's one of those things that I'm not saying I wasn't in the wrong. I know I was in the wrong a lot of the time. And that's just part of growing up. It's part of being stupid. It's part of being ignorant. It's part of being irresponsible. It's part of being a dumbass, not caring. It's part of being selfish. It's okay though. It's definitely okay. But like I said, having that, at least knowing now I can move on. I just don't feel the need anymore and I don't need to worry about it anymore. I'm an adult. But that's where I think my destructive behaviors really started, was way back then. That was like the first time that I started developing those negative behaviors. I eventually did it, and I was able to be true with myself and realize that it's all good. And folks, recovery is not a race. It doesn't go by quick. It's an everyday battle, and you can do it if you want it bad enough. Recovery is not a race. I say that to myself every morning. Recovery is not a race. Life or death, you choose. I have that tatted in Polish on my stomach. So when I see myself in the mirror, I look at it and it's a remembrance of where I was and where I want to go. So with that, I want to thank you for listening, and I'm out. Thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe and leave a comment. You can hear me on all major platforms and socials under the Mind of Psychic podcast. See you next time.